October 28th, 2024. I am at Joel Pearl, and it's time to get in the weeds. A lovely Monday morning, clouding over here in Toronto, but it's still nice outside. We can't complain. It's fall. The weather's here. The sun goes up later, and I don't like that part, but I like Jeremy Lambert just okay. How you doing, Jeremy? Good morning.
Joel, you know what I realized this weekend?
I have a few realizations, but I would like to hear yours first.
We're too young to do this. We're too young. We're not old enough to be successful. All these old timers, they get on here and they complain about the product. Now, back in my day, it was so much better. What happened to kayfabe, brother? And then they come out here and all these old dudes, they're back. They're just in wrestling. The weekend was highlighted by JBL, Nick Nemeth, Bully Ray. Who am I missing? The Hardys. That's all that mattered this weekend.
Frankie Kazarian.
Frankie Kazarian. We're never going to be successful, Joel, because we're not old wrestlers.
You're right. You know, it's funny. I was thinking the opposite the other day, yesterday. This is how insimpatico you and I can be. For like the weirdest reasons. Jeremy and I think people need to know. Jeremy and I, we don't talk outside of this wall. Outside this room, we don't talk. No texts, no DMs, no nothing. Never. Unless something is important, like we have a guest or we got to do, something. It's always about the show. We're strictly business, not the bad
work friends, as
yeah.
Kevin Durant famously once said.
Yeah, we clock in, clock out of our friendship. So I'm off for a walk yesterday, and I think to myself, you know what we should be? We should be younger, because the young ones are the ones that people are gravitating towards in this space. And I said, man, what if I did my intro as like, Skibbity Riz, Toilet, Ohio, Sigma, welcome to In the Weeds. And then my head would have exploded. First of all, it didn't now, but that's because I've already processed what would happen. And then I decided, no, you know what? Later that night, Halloween Havoc. So I'm cleaning my glasses vigorously for way too long. I'm watching the show. I didn't watch the pre-show. I didn't have time. Started the show late. Best Halloween Havoc is when you watch it in an hour. And I see two people whom we are quite acquainted with NXT microphones in hand. One's wearing a leather jacket. The other one's wearing a nice suit jacket, and he's got his red spectacles on, hosts a morning show on XM. They've been doing that for 15 years. Jeremy, I don't think we're ever going to get our hot tub, because Busted Open is going to have every bit of WWE media in the morning show wrestling sphere forever and ever. Amen. Until we get a certified professional wrestling superstar on this show, we will never be as popular as Busted Open.
So that's it?
I think that's it. I think
we're done. Good run, everybody.
I can't believe we did it. This feels exactly right given the weekend of wrestling I just watched. TNA gives up on Joe Hendry. We're going to give up on our dream of being a successful professional wrestling coded morning show. This is actually a very, very good point. Mystery wrestling is a lot of fun. Go check them out. Go check out my interview with Eva Luna, where we talked about mystery wrestling. That's true. We have hosted the TNA Knockouts champion, and I have interviewed her twice. Still better than Busted Open. Anyway, Jeremy, otherwise, how was your weekend? You feel a little better now? Are we done?
The Oklahoma City Thunder on a 3-game winning streak, 3-0 to start the season. The Colorado Avalanche are on a 5-game winning streak. They beat your Ottawa Senators last night.
Yeah, some weird stuff in that game.
The good sports, the sports that matter, they're very fun. The sports entertainment, I don't know. I don't know anymore, Joel. I lost hope this weekend. Lost Friday. All complete hope.
Friday was good. You got to feel good starts. there was some good stuff on SmackDown. People were hailing it as one of the better SmackDowns of the last few months.
Motor City Machine Gun winning titles, old dudes.
Hey, you know what? SmackDown to me was the best Bound for Glory pre-show I've ever watched. Given the big championship win to the TNA's biggest stars in the main event of the pre-show for Bound for Glory. Good episode of SmackDown, though. Did you know that Paul Levesque is a guy who runs the show for WWE? Did you know this? Have you heard about this?
That man was so upset he had to appear on screen. He was, he's like, Randy, I can't believe you're making me do this. Let me take off my headset. Let me go out there. Let me talk to you, Randy.
No, that's LA Knight who says,
I know. But let me address the situation. He was, can't believe Randy Orton made him do that. Shameful, that Randy Orton. Biggest heel move in the business, making Triple H appear on screen when he doesn't want to. He just wants to sit back there. He wants to run the show, and he wants nothing to do with anything else. Doesn't want to read lawsuits. He can't see, apparently.
Wants to scroll Twitter.
Yeah.
Let me scroll Twitter while we're watching the beginning match. What's the opening match? Oh, all right, that sounds like a good match. Hey, look at that. They have a lot of opinions about that Roman Reigns. Hey, you guys like that Roman Reigns? Yeah, he's pretty good, huh? Probably have him back.
He just wants to run the show. He does not want to appear on screen. They keep forcing him. Cody's calling him out there. They keep going. They move to new networks and all this stuff. They introduce new titles. It's like, oh God, who can do this? Only Triple H can do this. He's the only person for the job. No one else. They don't have a general manager. No one else can do this. It can only be Triple H. That's it.
He is the face that runs the place. Now that the face that runs the place is injured, nobody really knows. We haven't seen AJ Styles since whatever happened to him. But all he wanted was Triple H just wanted to sit back and run the show and do his thing. And Randy Orton's just like, no, you come here. And then they had to have a conversation. All because Nick Aldis was lazy. Nick Aldis was lazy. He said, it's not my decision. I can't give you a match. You got to go. It's over my head. Better off dead. It's a Sum 41 song. It's out of my head. Over my head. Sick of this play. I don't know. Whatever. Just something to look up the lyrics. I forget.
Because I'm in too deep and I'm trying to keep up above in my head instead of going under.
Yeah, that's a good song. Anyway. So Triple H makes the match. It's official. It's gonna be Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens at Crown Jewel, because that's what you do. You put on your big game pants and you put on your king hat. He doesn't wear a hat, but and you make the match. You make it happen because Triple H is a big boy. Now, before we continue, I heard something very interesting, a very interesting theory that I've been thinking about, and I think it's. And I'm being serious for a second. This is actually really cool. It's the idea that the general managers on Raw and SmackDown are the different, almost manifestations of Triple H's view of his work in WWE. Nick Aldis is this big, strapping professional. He's the guy who gets things done. He's the guy who tells everyone what to do. And
I like how you went accent there. Wasn't great, but like you went with it.
I went a little Australian, and then I went a little Putney. I tried. But anyway, he's the big hulking. He's confident. He knows what he's doing. Nick Aldis is the man. Nick Aldis is looked up to, revered by the talent he runs. That's NXT Triple H. That is Papa H. That is the guy. That's him. And then over on Raw, you have Adam Pearce. And Adam Pearce is middle management. He hates his job, but he does it. He needs a drink, but he can't because he doesn't do it. He doesn't drink, although he does, but you never see him. He's stressed out all the time. That is Triple H in the office in real life, because he is middle management. He's not a TKO executive. He's not in charge. He's not Nick Khan. He's not the guy in charge. He is just the guy who runs creative there. And he still has people above him and people below him, and he's got a thankless job, and it's a piece of garbage. And that is Adam Pearce. That's the projection. So the two GMs are projections of Triple H in like two different viewpoints. And thinking about that is like this genius thing I'd never really spent much time on. And now I see the GMs completely differently. And I thought that was really interesting. Next time you watch the show, just think about like the manifestations of Triple H on both shows. When you're watching Raw tonight, think about Adam Pearce as like this middle management guy who hates his job, and then think about Triple H because he's got to deal with The Rock. But Triple H loves The Rock. Don't get it twisted. Best friends. Wink, wink.
I'm probably not going to watch this show. Just none of them. That's an interesting theory, Joel. I'll give you that. I don't know how true it is, but I see where you're coming from with this. More importantly, Randy Orton is friggin' gigantic.
Oh, big. The man makes being big to shame.
That was the biggest thing I noticed here. I'm like, when did Orton dwarf this man? When they wrestled, like, yeah, they're probably about the same size or so. Triple H might have been a little bit bigger. Now, dude, Orton is like, he is 2 times as big as anybody else in this company. Cody seems like a big dude. Kevin Owens seems like a big dude. Triple H was a big dude when he wrestled. And they stand next to Orton, and it does not matter. Orton is gigantic. This Nutella diet that he's on is amazing. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's clearly working for his traps. Nutella by Traps. Traps by Nutella, I guess. He is so friggin' huge. It's astounding. You could put him. Remember the shot of the witches, the WWE Tag Team Champions, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, and when they were giants next to like Io and Kyrie.
They're still giants, Jeremy. They're always going to be giants.
I need Randy like next to Kyrie just for the visual.
It's just out of frame. It's just from the nipples down, and then it's Kyrie.
Just the visual of this man. He's friggin' huge. He's looking real jacked, brother. Real jacked.
He's a big man. He's basically like when Dave Bautista decided to slim down for the movies. It's like Bautista took off the big man suit and passed it on to Randy. He was like, "Here, I don't need this anymore. You can wear it." And Randy's like, "All right, I'd love to." Someone says Randy next to Zelina Vega.
That's a good
shout. If she unblocked me, I'd probably be all about that. Yeah.
That's a good shout. That's all I can notice in these Randy Orton segments nowadays. I don't know what the hell they're saying. No idea. I'm just like, when did he become twice the size of everybody else on this roster? It's already like a big roster. Like, you know, it's WWE. Like, all these guys look good and they're in good shape and they're pretty large men compared to normals. But this man, it dwarfs them. It's insane. Absolutely insane.
I haven't seen any of his kids on his TikToks lately. Maybe he ate one of the kids.
Well, let's not throw that out there. Come on.
Well, what? Until there's proof otherwise, he's a big man. What's part of his regimen? How is he getting so big?
Nutella.
But the Nutella alone, come on, you got to get something else in there. Maybe the Nutella is helping put other stuff down with it.
We're not gonna put out there that he's a cannibal or anything. Nutella. Eats a lot of Nutella. He's ginormous. Bless him. Match with Kevin Owens should be fun. Hopefully Triple H doesn't need to get involved. He doesn't want to. If he has to, it's because he feels he has to, not because he wants to, everybody.
That's right. There has to be a winner, just like the Crown Jewel Championships. There has to be a winner in the Randy Orton and Kevin Owens match.
I was like, what the hell are the Crown Jewel Championships?
There's the big gaudy Art Deco belts that were made to placate the Saudi government.
They put a lot of money into those.
Allegedly, yes. Hey, listen, you get $55 million half a year, 110 a year. You put some money towards those ugly ass belts. that sit in a big open space in
They
Riyadh.
treat those things like the Stanley Cup. You know, as a hockey fan, Joel, they got the Stanley Cup and it's in the case and everything, and the man with the white gloves and they carry it around. It's only in the building when the team can win it. Yeah, it doesn't come to the building otherwise, and like they show it in the middle of the game and everything. The cup's in the building. Is it going to be presented tonight? That's how they're treating this friggin' thing.
As they should.
Should they?
It's a big gaudy belt that they'll never see again. It's just like the Stanley Cup. No shade of the Stanley Cup. The presentation is what I'm saying. The Stanley Cup lives in one place for 11 months of the year. And then when it's time to bring it out, they bring it on the road. It's got its big case, just like you were saying, the guy that shines it up, blah, blah, blah. And then it's presented to the winner. They skate around the ice and then they get drunk with it. And then it goes back into a case, never to be seen again, except for the summertime when everyone gets a day with the cup. And then my argument goes completely awry. But there's only one person in wrestling. So basically, whoever wins it, they get their day with the belt. They'll wear it on Raw. Gunther will wear, or Cody will wear the belt on Raw the next night, and so will Liv or Nia. And then after that, you'll never see it again because it'll live in the one spot that it came from, which is Riyadh, and you'll never see it. It'll be on display at the World, not the restaurant. The other thing they do.
No, it's the WWE Experience. I don't think it's WWE World over there.
The restaurant was better.
Yeah.
Wholly mismanaged.
I actually like this idea. I like this idea, Joel. I like this idea that this title is like the Stanley Cup. You get your name etched on it on the little side plate. You get, let's say, a week because it's only one wrestler, right? It's not like a team of 20 and then all the staff and everything.
Well, you got the Nightmare family. Maybe they all get a day with the belt.
No. They didn't do any work. I know Cody says do the work, but they didn't do any work. You get 1 week. If you want to take it with the Nightmare family, that's fine. You get 1 week with the belt. And then it goes away until next year when you do champion versus champion again. And whoever wins gets their name etched on it. They get a week with the belt. This actually, look, we all think this title's pretty stupid. I should say we all, but most of us think this title's pretty stupid. It's only done to placate the Saudis and all of this stuff. But you know what? If you treat it like it's the NBA championship or the Stanley Cup and it's a once a year kind of event, champion versus champion, best of the best, and this is like you add some extra prestige to it by doing stuff like this. Like, I think it's okay. It still kind of gets in the way of like the storytelling and things like that, but they've done a good job. Like the Gunther and Cody segment on SmackDown, I thought was good. Liv and Nia is a little disjointed because they're both heels and everything. So it's like, what are we doing? But like, if you treat it like it's the Stanley Cup, I actually think you can make it sort of worthwhile and sort of moving forward if you're going to keep up with it, which that's the biggest thing, right? Next year, what gimmick did the Saudis want? They don't even care about this crown jewel championship. But if you can make it a yearly thing and you can make it champion versus champion every single year, then the champions have something to just kind of look forward to. It's like, all right, I'm the champion. Now I'm going to prove I'm the actual best champion by beating the other guy. You can make this kind of a big deal if you actually put some stock and some equity into it. I don't think they will because, again, the Saudis next year are going to be like, yeah, that Crown Jewel Championship was cool last year. You know, it'd be really, really cool. 60 man Royal Rumble. 60-man Royal Rumble. Go back to the 3 rings, like the World War III. That gimmick ruled. That's what we want this year. So I think that's what they should. But I do think you can put some stock into this championship. Make it like the Stanley Cup. You get you can't drink out of it or anything, but what can you do?
You can. You get someone at the top. It's a slip and slide. You get someone on the top. They pour the bottle down. Also, it's Saudi. You're not really supposed to be doing that, but I mean, you do. It's not a.
Well, you bring it to America with you. You get it for a week. You're not going to stay in Saudi the whole week.
Well, they might want you to because the thing's worth so much money. You know, put it.
It's in America now.
Allegedly, it could be AI. We don't know. Maybe they got a fake version. Maybe they got the cubic zirconia one. There's a fake Stanley Cup.
All right. Well, they can use the fake belt to parade around then to do the week with.
60-man Royal
Imagine-
Rumble, but it's all just Bloodline members.
Imagine Dork Cody carrying this title around. He's taking it to the Nightmare Factory. He's like, see, everybody, if you do the work, you get this title right here. This title means a lot. He's talking about the undisputed WWE title. This title means a lot. But this title over here, I had to beat the WWE World Heavyweight Champion to win this title. This title has $50,000 worth of jewels in it, $2 million worth of diamonds. This title is the title y'all want. And then all the Nightmare Factory students are like coming up there. And then Diamond Sheik is using his gimmick to see if it's real. And he's like, Cody, these things aren't real. And Cody's like, well, the real one's actually in Saudi. This is kind of, the fake one, everything. Cody's got to like explain it. Kayfabe, brother. Cody's taking it. He's on the bus. He's drinking the Wheatley vodka with this thing, toasting to the title. Wheatley, so good. Ding. I drink it neatly, because Cody's got to hit the slogan. He's always very good. He's taking it all the media appearances and all this stuff. He's going to the rallies. Everything, not those rallies.
Don't talk about those rallies.
Not those rallies. The WWE rallies.
Right,
rally for WWE.
They call them kickoff shows now.
Okay, he's going to all the kickoff shows with this thing. He's doing all the media appearances with. He's going to the games. He's at the Hawks game. He's taking the photo with Trae Young and all this stuff. Like that's what Cody was. And then Gunther, meanwhile, he just probably like leaves it in his suitcase. He's like, yeah, sure. Okay. Ludwig, take this thing. Do something with it. I don't care. Cody's got the cigar. Him and Frankie Kazarian are smoking the cigars and everything. And Frankie's like, one day I'm going to win a world title. And Cody's like, you're in TNA, probably. You're at the age that they'll put the belt on you. Yeah.
He's got tenure. All he has to do is go to the Anthem executives and ask for a title and they'll give it to him. They gave him the referee spot because of it. This is the Cody thing is funny because the way I see it in my head is him going up to his students and being like, this belt, I love this belt, the Undisputed Championship. But this belt, let me tell you, this belt will bail you out of prison. Let me tell you how much this belt is worth. And then he goes down the cost list. He's like, this belt pays for itself. Trust me. Murder, this belt. And then he just walks away and lets the children ruminate over what he said. Speaking of children, Ricky Starks showed up at Glory Pro this weekend.
Bless Ricky Starks. Love Ricky.
And did you know who he speared?
Why did you say speaking of children?
Well, Ricky's one of Cody's kids.
Okay. All right.
My bridge connected. That. It was just, what? Ricky is a child? No, Ricky is one of Cody's kids.
Okay. Yeah. Again, clarify. We don't want to be accused of calling Ricky a child.
Oh God, no. Not to be confused with Scott's Tots. This was Ricky Stark showed up. Did you see who he speared?
Yeah. Get a friend of the show, Sean Logan.
Let's go. So now Ricky Starks needs to go work Second Wrestling and go after that championship that Sean has.
Well, he's gonna face Cody Lane in November. Ricky is. It was good to see Ricky back in the ring doing stuff. Getting tough day for the if Ricky wants to work so bad, why does he go to indies? Well, there you go. He went to an indie. He's getting some work in. Hopefully it leads to something for him. I don't know.
I really hope that when he's ready, he talks about why he chose to do this match or why he chose to come back to Glory Pro. Like what his motivations were. And I'm sure someone will ask. Someone who's good at their job will absolutely ask him about it when Ricky's ready, because it's good to see him. And yeah, that'll be a fun match. I'm sure he's excited to get involved as well.
He should win in like 30 seconds. I hope Ricky goes on like an indie run where it just squashes a bunch of people.
He gets all the Ultimo Dragon belts. He does the 9 belts, Ricky. He's like, I don't want this. I want the Cody Crown Jewel title.
He just beats a bunch of people. He's like, you got to bring me back now. Like, I'm out here destroying all these indie talents.
Come on. I got all the belts. You want all the belts on your show? You don't got these belts. Come on. What are you up to? This is weird father figure territory we're getting into. Please book me. Oh, no. We love our Ricky Starks. Hopefully he's doing well. Clearly he is, because he looked good making that appearance last night. It's good on him. The rest of SmackDown, you'll just touch on really it was the last really 10 minutes of the show, really last 30 minutes if you count the tag team match, but last little bit of the show told 3 separate stories in one, which I was surprised by, and I appreciate it as well. One was obviously Machine Guns winning the tag titles. They got the number 1 contendership earlier that night, and the match before it, Bloodline comes out, they make the match, tag titles on the line. Motor City Machine Guns win because Jey Uso comes out, costs the Bloodline, and then you have Roman Reigns, you had Jimmy Uso come out, they got involved as well. You have the rebundling of the Usos. The brothers are back, allegedly. At least they're hugging. If you want SmackDown spoilers, you can just go over to Fightful and find out what happened in the ring after that. And then the third one that I think people were either kind of seeing, maybe they weren't seeing, was DIY having a few issues looking at each other, staring at each other, that they lost their match against Motor City Machine Guns in the number 1 contendership match. So maybe they're starting to put irons in the fire of a potential DIY breakup. We always know that Ciampa and Gargano have great matches together or apart. So you got. Why are you so angry, Jeremy? Why are you so angry? Don't get so angry.
We need to do a split between these two.
Not necessarily. You can also tease it out for a while and do a story that's not similar to New Day, but on the vein of, the tag team having issues but not breaking up. Maybe they're, maybe they need to fight each other for once and then get back together. I don't know what it is, but there's definitely teasing of tension between DIY, and we'll see where they go with it. It could be that they both turn heel. Don't like Johnny Gargano much as a serious heel. He's a much better fake heel or a jokey heel. See the way, probably his best character work when he was in WWE. But we'll see where it goes. But they told 3 stories pretty effectively in the time of the last half hour, really the last 10 minutes of the show. And I appreciated it. Listen, Bloodline's number 1 story on SmackDown. We know this. Sorry, Cody. You're just not, your match with Gunther is a match that's happening on the card, but like what they've announced for Saudi is like the ramp up to what's going on at War Games. Just is. I'm sure the KO and Cody at War Games will be fun, especially because KO is Canadian and you'll have a crowd in Vancouver that'll feel a certain way. But Bloodline are 1A. Tag teams are in need of a little bit of a shakeup, and that's what they've seemed to be doing by having Motor City Machine Guns capture those titles, and then the DIY tension. There's good stuff there. You got Street Profits saying some stuff online about their feelings about how they're being booked, or at least how they're doing their job. So there's some stuff going on. What did you think of the end of SmackDown there?
Was it too busy, Joel? Did you find it to be too busy?
It's a good question, because I felt a similar way with how they booked the Ring of Honor title. And I know that a lot of people felt their way that they felt about Chris Jericho winning the title, but then they breezed past Mark Briscoe, and then they went right to Tomohiro Ishii. And also the show had a ton of other stuff going on Dynamite this past week that, I felt like some stuff was brushed by. This is kind of in the same vein. You let Motor City Machine Guns breathe with their title win. They went very quickly to the title match, which, like, I don't know how far you were going to get in a promo off between Bloodline and Motor City without having to interject somebody else, and I didn't need that. So I don't know. I go back and forth. I don't think that they killed too much in that 10 minutes. I just think they found a way to weave all the stories together. That's kind of where I am. The DIY thing is like low, Motor City Machine Guns 2, and then the Usos back together 3, because you got lower, mid, top of the card.
The Motor City was the only thing. The DIY is very surface. We don't know where that's going to lead. I would like DIY both to turn heel and link up with Grayson Waller. I don't care what happens to Austin Theory. But, they were teasing the Waller split, and then now they're barely on television anymore. So who knows where that's going to go. But DIY and Grayson Waller, I think you can get some. It'd be played for a lot of comedy. Waller already plays for a lot of comedy, but I also think you can do some good work with those 3 as a heel group. Nothing on SmackDown is going to overshadow what's going on with Bloodline and then the Cody stuff. So it's not like they got to be title threats or anything, but as a tag team heel with Motor City as the tag team champions, there's some work. There's some good work there. Heel DIY with KO. Okay. I don't know if KO needs heaters, but that's a possibility. there. KO right now feels like he stands out fine on his own and doesn't need people around him to do any of those work. But I could that's not terrible. Motor City is where it did feel maybe you could have just done the title win and not done the hug at the end. I know the hug was a big thing. They got a big pop out of that. You got Roman looking on like, oh, is this good? Is this bad? What's going on here? Type of thing. So I understand why they did the hug, but it felt like you could have maybe just done the title win, gone off with that, and left something for next week. They didn't. And look, the crowd reaction is going to tell you all you need to know. The crowd reaction, they got what they wanted out of that hug. So maybe it was smart that they didn't leave it for next week. I just wondering if it was too busy at the end there. Because we asked the same question when it came to Dynamite. Like, oh, you're doing Private Party. They're going to split. And then here comes the Jon Moxley stuff. Like, did anything get a chance to breathe on there? It's similar, but not completely similar, given these are very clearly two separate stories, with Motor City winning the titles and then the Bloodline sort of reunion, where the AEW portion is they were separate but connected because Private Party is trying to fight the Jon Moxley group, but also they're putting their friendship and partnership on the line against the Elite. And that feels like a disconnected way of why would they do that when they're trying to preach unity and we got to be together to fight Jon Moxley? Why are we going to basically say, hey, we'll split if we lose? Where Motor City and Bloodline is completely different things. If Motor City's winning the titles and then they'll go off and do their own thing, Bloodline is Bloodline and lives upon itself.
It is the show. Bloodline, they should just call it Blood Down. Smack Blood?
Well,
Smackline?
Nope, none of that.
Smackline's not too bad. I largely agree with you. They are very different stories being told on, and that's what I was trying to say, on different planes, right? You've got three very distinct stories. The big one being the big reveal of the Usos getting back together. It was Jey Uso getting revenge on the Bloodline for costing him his title on Monday. So instead, on Friday, he went and cost the other Bloodline their tag titles. He got involved in that. Motor City Machine Guns were the beneficiaries of that. It didn't matter. Just like with Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker is not affiliated with Bloodline at all. He's not affiliated with that side of the story. He's just the recipient. He's the beneficiary of this feud. So he's going to get the title, just like Motor City Machine Guns are in the same boat. If they Blood Curve, by the way, is the answer. It should be called Blood Curve from now on.
Blood Curve?
Blood Curve. Yeah, just everything's graded. Everything's graded on the Blood Curve. That feels wrong. No, I can't do it. But regardless, I like the idea that they're telling the story in three different ways for these three stories we're telling, and they're of different importance, different levels of importance. The Bloodline being number one means we got to keep telling the Bloodline story. For you, did this feel like the right time for Jey to come back, to hug Jimmy, to reconcile the brothers? Because Roman's at the top of the stage at the end of SmackDown with a kind of a pensive look on his face. He's not in control of the situation. He didn't really want Jey. This was Jey's decision to reunite with his brother, and his brother's more than willing to do that. So once again, Roman showing he's not in control, and that makes him kind of confused and upset. What do you think of that whole thing?
I did think like the way they did it was good because Jey lost the Intercontinental title because Bloodline got involved on Monday. So turnabout's fair play. He's going to cost them their titles. Again, the titles have never been central to the Bloodline story this time around. It was when Roman was the champion and dominating everything, but this time around the titles were not. It was the moment of winning the titles, not necessarily holding the titles for a long time. That's why I didn't have a problem when Jey lost the Intercontinental title as quickly as he did. The moment was him winning, not holding it for a long period of time. And the same thing with Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa / Jacob Fatu, since he was part of the original team that won it. It was not about them holding the titles for a long time. It was about them winning it, getting that moment of, hey, we can win these titles, but then losing when they needed to lose. So Jey costing them made sense. Jimmy coming out and hugging made sense because Jimmy wanted to have the conversation on Raw a couple weeks ago. Jay was the one who blew it off when they showed up together the other week on SmackDown. I guess it was last week when they showed up together. You know, Jimmy was still, he wasn't standoffish to Jay. Jay came up, he was laughing and everything. I don't know if he was being sarcastic or if he just broke character, because Jay does that. But he was laughing when he came up there, and he didn't seem to have an issue with Jimmy. It was the stuff with Roman of the no yeet type of thing. Jimmy was the one who, again, wanted to have the conversation, was the one who told Roman, hey, we're going to need some help. Like, we need help against these guys, implying that they needed Jay. I think Jimmy saw that they needed Jay, and it was Roman. And again, he had the look on his face at the end of SmackDown, who doesn't quite know what to think of all of this, because he's not in control of things. Jay has proven he can stand on his own. Jimmy is showing, hey, we do need help here. We gotta forgive. We gotta, put stuff in the past with what we've done. We've gotta make amends with people. And Roman ain't exactly all about that a lot of times.
The jaywalking into frame thing that you mentioned, that segment,
crime.
That was, he fit the crime by walking in. Is that what?
You said jaywalking.
Oh, yes. Jaywalking is a crime in certain cities. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, in Toronto, not so much. Well, it can be. It depends what the call. Anyway, point is, when Jay walked into frame for that one segment, that came after Jay had already confronted Solo and his bloodline, and the crowd was very firmly behind Jay. I think that moment, I think, maybe gets a little misinterpreted because they think it's like Jay's happy to see his cousin and his brother, but I think realistically he's just like, nah, I put those fools in their place out there. That's how he felt. So he's in a good mood because he did his thing, and he was like, I'll slap Jacob Fatu. Like, there was no violence, but instead it was just, I stood my ground. I'm a confident champion. The people love me. That was just him on a high. That wasn't him being like, oh look, it's my oos. No, it was him like reacting to what he had just done. That's the way I took it in. That's the motivation that I took from it. So like when I hear people say, why was he happy? Why was he doing that? To me, so that's my one pushback. But Roman being a little pensive about this whole reunion is good for me. I like it. I know what happens because I did see the taping spoilers, but we're going to ease away from that. But I'm looking forward to how they play it together, because Crown Jewel is the next chapter, and then we're going to hopefully get to War Games after that. Then maybe The Rock shows up somewhere, maybe down the line.
Drew asking, how does Sami get introduced into this story? I don't know if it's going to happen on tonight's Raw. It might not happen until after Crown Jewel. I've not read the full SmackDown spoilers, but I did see the match spoiler for Crown Jewel. So I think it's probably going to be after Crown Jewel is where Sami comes back around. I don't want to get spoiled too much for Crown Jewel in case people don't want that spoiler. But this isn't a spoiler. The bloodline, the OG bloodline, is still outnumbered. It is still 4 against 3. So if there are any type of brawl, if there is a one-on-one match or anything like that, they are still outnumbered in that sense. I think you still have to show that they are outnumbered longer than it. Really, they haven't shown it at all, because the Usos and Roman got the up on them on SmackDown, this past SmackDown. So you're going to have, whether it's tonight's Raw or this or Friday's SmackDown, you got to show that the new bloodline still has the numbers, and then you can reintroduce Sami.
What if the test for Roman from the brothers, from the Usos, because they know that he wants to be in control, they know that he always likes to have a say in things, and he is the planner. What if they go into War Games with like not knowing, not knowing, but they think they're stuck at 3. They think they're stuck at 3, and it's going to be, we'll fight him anyway. We'll go 4-on-3. We can do this, and Roman's annoyed, but he's going to do it. And then they have the last minute, they're like, oh no, we got him. We found him. And Roman's like, who is it? Or maybe they don't know, and they just have Sami show up and he says, I need to support my Usos. And Roman's like, no, I hate this. I'm not doing this. And then you got Jimmy and Jay being like, no, this is perfect. He's got to be it. And let that tension build. It's a will they, won't they to start the story of reconciliation with Sami and Roman. And it starts at War Games and continues coming out of it. Instead of giving us, because again, we're going to start losing time on the build to the show. Instead of giving us the 3 weeks, do you want to stretch it out a little longer and have it, do you want to do it now or do you want to do it later? That's how it is. And if the story is Roman needs to be in control, but part of his reconciliation and part of his redemption is learning to be okay with not having control all the time, then Sami showing up is almost like one of the bigger tests. And now he's got to deal with what happens when this guy that I don't like, but I have to deal with, is on the same team as me.
This all depends on how you're mapping out the match and the timing of things.
But also, like, I would bring Sami out to sit in the shark cage at the beginning of the match. Like, it would be the start of the tension is there.
Okay, so again, this is weeks, and like we're still a month away from War Games. We got to get through Crown Jewel first.
And you got to tape in Raw. Raw's in Saudi the next night. So that's another reason why I kind of take away from that week of storytelling, because if Sami's not on the card, I don't think they're going to fly him all the way out. They could, but I don't know where he's going to be at that point.
Yeah. Does the Bloodline do something to Sami to pull him into it? That's what they basically did with Jay. But Jay is actually family. Like real family. I know Sami's honoraries and everything, but Jay's real family. Sami has been disconnected from the Bloodline stuff since losing, or I guess in the case that he did win at WrestleMania, but he's been disconnected from the Bloodline stuff since really breaking away from them. Jay's always going to be connected because Jay is actual family. I think there's a world where Sami is sort of a week of, like, he comes in the week of Survivor Series and there's a little tension like there. That's possible. Here's the thing though. You got to have the big Sami Zayn fired up promo, and not fired up at Bloodline, fired up at Roman Reigns. The big Sami Zayn, like, you put me through all this shit. You put your brothers through all this shit, or cousins. You put your cousins through all this shit. Look what you did to all of these people, to this company. You need basically the Sami Zayn was right promo out of all of this. And that's probably got to happen before War Games. And you do need to have Roman Reigns show a little humility and humbleness of, okay, all right, like, look, maybe it's not like on his knees begging. That's not the Roman Reigns character. But Roman Reigns being like, yeah, I did do all of this. And again, I did it for my family. I did it so my family could eat. I brought you in to all that so you could eat as well. I did what I needed to do to basically uplift all of this, all of family. And when you were here, when you were part of this family, Sami, you ate better than you've ever eaten. You know, you did all of these things, and you got lifted to new heights as well. And you went on and you did great things too. And Roman can say he is proud of Sami as well, but he's got to show a little bit of humbleness to all of that as well. And he doesn't need to grovel. It can be the same, very similar to Jay, where he's just like, I'm proud of you. The family's proud of you. That's it. But I think there's a huge opportunity with the fired up Sami Zayn was right promo. Sami's a good promo as it is. And Sami, I've said this many times, Sami will sell you anything. Sami can make you believe anything. He knows exactly how to play a crowd. And that big Sami Zayn promo, you need that at some point.
And I do agree, because they're so different in presentation. Roman Reigns is very stoic. He's very pronounced and very much, He's cerebral, not like the guy who doesn't want to be on TV, but they drag him out on TV. That's a different cerebral. And then you've got Sami Zayn, who is very chaotic, who is very energetic, who is all over the place, but always sells the point. He is very passionate. If one is the brain, the other is the heart. And I like the idea of Sami being like, I was right. You were a garbage human being, and this is what you did. And lay it out. This is what you do it in your Sami Zayn way. And then Roman kind of comes back with the, I did it for the people. I did it for the, sorry, wrong guy. Instead, you have, I did it for the family. And I did it because look, everyone's eating now. Look, Jey Uso he won the Intercontinental Championship. He main event. Jey Uso, he did it. Look at this guy. Look at Big Jim. Big Jim's doing this. Big Jim's doing that. Big Jim's everywhere. Blah blah blah. And it basically build up. Roman states his case. It's tribal court, but it's not exactly like the original tribal court. But it's Roman Reigns making his claims and proving that he was right. While Sami's like, no, but I was right too. There needs to be a room in which both men are right for the exact different reasons, but then they come to a mutual understanding that there is something bigger than whatever they disagree with in the room that they need to fight. And that's going to be Solo in the Bloodline, and specifically Jacob Fatu, because it feels like Jacob Fatu should just beat the shit out of Sami Zayn to start this whole thing, because that's the best way to do it. Regardless, Sami needs to get there, and Roman needs to match that the intensity or at least the way the promo will be delivered.
I think this starts with Sami questioning Jey, and maybe that's tonight. Maybe it's just a little bit tonight, but it starts with just Sami being like, "You sure about this? Like, remember what they did. Remember what they put you through. Remember what they put me through. Remember what they put all of us through. Just sure about this." And then Jey can be something as simple as like, yeah, but they're still my family. It's still, those are my brothers, my actual brother and my cousin. Like they're still family. And then Jey, it can be as simple as, and remember, you're family too, Sami. And that's it. You don't have to go over the top. You don't have to do anything else on the show tonight or next week, whenever it might be. But that could be just one beat of the story, because you got time to get there, especially if they're going to be on both shows, which it does seem like they're going to be. So you don't need to do a bunch of the story in 1 week or 2 weeks. You've got between now and Survivor Series, 7 shows, 8 shows. If you're talking about Raw and SmackDown before Survivor Series, you don't need to you don't need to get from point A to point Z in the next 2 weeks. You can do it literally the week of Survivor Series. That Raw, that can be the big fiery Sami Zayn, I told you so promo. That SmackDown, maybe that SmackDown is a little bit more, maybe that's the feeling Usi. That's the good times, Usos and Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn promo, and then maybe the new Bloodline lays them out at the end or something. We'll see what the story beats are. But I do think it can start as simple as Sami just being like, just remember, and Jey being like, you also remember that you're still family as well. You don't have to do anything else with those two.
So from tonight, you've got 10 episodes between Raw and SmackDown. You got 5 each.
Yeah, plenty of time.
Plenty of time. And the one thing is you're feeling Uzi, like the fun promo and the other. I'd flip them around, because SmackDown will be your go home. Survivor Series is the next night. I would do a big Bloodline beatdown, whatever, a big fight that night, the Friday night, instead of doing something on the Monday. The Monday I would do.
That's what I said.
Feeling Uzi. I thought you flipped it around. I thought you said SmackDown would be feeling Uzi, but Monday would be the big hype night.
Oh yeah, SmackDown's still feeling Uzi, but Bloodline stands tall at the end of the show. Like, I think that's going to be a Bloodline heavy show if right before Survivor Series. Monday's the big fiery Sami Zayn promo, and maybe nothing else.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so we're on the same page then. Great, wonderful. Yeah, no, I'm online with that. Look at us having a creative writing session on the air. Seems like what we do. By the way, we're almost 50 minutes into the show, almost an hour into the show, and I should probably tell you to leave a thumbs up on the video. If you haven't yet, what's wrong with you? Get on it. Come on. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you need to be told to leave a fireworks on the video. And by that, I mean thumbs up. And of course, you can subscribe to us here at Fightful Overbooked, FightfulOverbooked.com, dropping content every day. And you can donate a super chat any amount, get your question or statement read on the air. We appreciate it. It goes a long way. It covers our creator bills. In other words, the other people. Yeah, the call to action, as you're supposed to do in the YouTube world. But we did it. Anything else from SmackDown worth bringing up? I will bring this up. When you mentioned the Crown Jewel Championships, you made reference to not being the biggest fan of the women's side of it. Am I right?
I mean, I just said the dynamic's weird because it's heel and heel. That's all.
So for me, I've actually enjoyed the story more, not because of that, but because of the Tiffany Stratton involvement. It is a little strange, and you've had to kind of play around with the babyface and heel dynamic. You're right. But in this case, there's at least a little more at play that they're using the Money in the Bank story to go with it. It's awkward in its way, but it still has more than Cody and Gunther, which is a straight up who's better than who. Also, Gunther doesn't have anyone opposing him, whereas Cody has his own detractors coming after him. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's why I like one over the other. But ultimately, these are two matches that have little to do with storyline, women a little bit more than the men. That's where I'm at with it. I don't know if you have anything to add on those.
I think the build for Cody and Gunther has been really good as far as like their promo work. I don't care about this Crown Jewel Championship, but if you're selling me on just a Cody versus Gunther match, they've sold me on the Cody versus Gunther aspect of it. The women's match, like the Money in the Bank stuff has made it more interesting, but I can't say that's a strong selling point for me. I'm just like, all right, are you going to cash in or you know? I'm like the Money in the Bank briefcase just doesn't do a whole lot for me. It just doesn't. So no matter what they're doing with that, again, it's a tough sell for me because I don't care about the briefcase that much. So they're like, it's fine what they're doing. I understand the way they're doing it because it is a heel versus heel. You got to have something else at play, especially when Cody and Gunther is so much of who is the best. Like, I mean, that's the whole point of this Crown Jewel Championship anyway. But when it's two heels who one, I don't want to say people don't believe in Liv, but she's beaten Rhea thanks to help both times. And she is very much, the character is very much played as kind of a chicken shit heel who gets by thanks to her friends. And she's more consumed with Dom and chicken tenders. Naya's at least been played as a dominant, like heel force. So at least that makes some sense. The briefcase, introducing Tiffany Stratton in the briefcase of like, hey, why don't you cash in on her? Or maybe she will cash in on Nia. Like, makes sense. Again, just not something that I'm super interested in.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I see that there's at least something in there beyond these are two guys who are going to fight and they're world champions. And here we go. What do you want to talk about? Gunther being a little piece of shit on Friday night. That was good stuff. But the last thing I guess I want to touch on from SmackDown, unless you have anything else, is acknowledge me. I was right. 4-way for the tag team titles for the women. Told you it would be a 4-way, and they're doing it. Okay. They did it. Okay. Shout out to Lash Legend for being painted entirely green and saying she's in her She-Hulk era. It's so stupid the way they have to redo all of those renders just for those graphics. It's whatever. It is what it is. We're stuck for another few years with it. Do we want to move on from SmackDown, or is there anything else you want to cover from the night on Friday?
I went to a Halloween party on Friday. That's how I spent my Friday.
I saw that you were dressed up. Were you conflicted? Were you feeling confused, like you had to take care of a situation? Were you a leader, Jeremy Lambert?
I spent $0 on this costume, Joel.
Bless.
$0. I already had jeans, got a jean jacket, printed out a picture of my face to put on a white t-shirt that I already had sunglasses. $0. I told everybody, nobody guessed it correctly on Friday's show, that I was going to go as a wrestler that I like. Love Orange Cassidy. We got the Orange Cassidy figure. He gave a thumbs up to my costume. There we go.
Good for him.
Cassidy, thumbs up. It was fun. I had a good time on Friday night. And then I watched SmackDown later on.
You watched SmackDown and had a great time. And then We'll do Bound for Glory in a little bit. Let's take WWE Halloween Havoc. Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Okay, that was a show.
That was a show. There is a full review over on Fightful. Go to the main channel. Alex and Kate definitely had what to say about it. I didn't watch it, but I already know what they had to say. Yeah, really, I think the main takeaways included the women's tag match was fantastic. They did a good job, and everything else kind of happened. Mm-hmm.
Women's tag team match was really good. The other matches were fine, and then the show ended.
And they had one championship change hand because you got to do that on a show like this. Fallon Henley is the new.
Hey, you know what? I give credit to the Fatal Influence because it was Spinner's choice. I always say this: when the heel can pick the gimmick, why wouldn't you pick it to where you completely stack the odds in your favor?
Of course.
I get it. I got to beat you with a 1 count. You got to beat me with a 50 count. Like, that's the type of shit we need. So them being like, yeah, you know what? It's going to be a gauntlet. That was at least smart heel tactics there.
Yeah, we had said maybe they were going to do a 3-on-1 match, which also would have worked. But instead, the gauntlet, I was like, part of me was like, why didn't Kalani then, when she didn't retort with something like, but what happens when one of you wins? Are one of you going to be better than the other? Like, sow the seeds of dissension, because these are all mean girls. Like, it was Fallon Henley got the title, but like now someone has to be that dickhead who's just like, so who's the best of the three? They're not doing that. Delta came in. I'm sorry, she's now Zarya. She came in at the end of the match and took out the members of Fatal Influence. It was fine. You know, it is what it is. But we have a new North American Women's Champion, and that's Fallon Henley. And it was good that they got there by doing a 3-on-1, a gauntlet match. That was good. Obafemi does not recapture the North American Championship. I'm still on the Deadline idea where he goes, wins the Iron Survivor match whenever they do that, and then he gets that title match whenever it is and captures the title then. I don't know if you have anything else to add about the plunder match that opened up between Tony D'Angelo and Obafemi.
I don't think they have plans for Obafemi on the main roster yet. I don't know where he goes right now after losing again to Tony D'Angelo. It feels like he should be elevated up to the world title feud, but Bully Ray's got to win the world title first, I guess.
Bully Ray is back. Sorry, he's Bubba Ray because the IP exists in WWE.
Right.
Bubba Ray is back. Kate's here just in time. Birdie named chicken after me. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Shout out to Brian Danielson and his 7 chickens. Yeah. 6 chickens. I thought it was 7 chickens for some reason. Maybe I just misread. Maybe one of them didn't make it. I don't know. But either way, Bubba, I don't know. It's their chickens. Anyway, Bubba Ray Dudley came back and immediately got inserted. You know what? Let's go back even further. Trick Williams and Ethan Page have a match, and the match is fine. There was some good stuff. It was good. Shout out to that one. Someone posted something like he did the Willy Wonka roll that, from the movie when Trick he did a forward roll. He did the number one thing that you're taught in wrestling. He did a forward friggin' roll. And then people were like, oh my God. Anyway, Trick retains his NXT championship. Match was fine. Listen, the two guys know how to wrestle. They're two very different wrestlers, but they have some pretty good chemistry. So the match was good. And then after the match, you've got Trick Williams celebrating in the ring. And then in comes Ridge Holland, because it was Ridge Holland night, apparently. And the first thing you hear is, oh, shucky ducky quack quack. Like, why are you talking right now? What the that was, if there's ever been one thing to take me completely out of a main event story, it's the main event winner celebrating and then his next challenger being beat up while the color commentary shouts their fucking catchphrase over the beatdown. It's bad enough that Ridge Holland is going to be going after the title. Oh God. And then Bubba Dudley comes in and I guess there's gonna be a tag match at 2300. Sure. Bubba Dudley's back, baby. That hurt my voice doing that stupid Booker T thing. Great finish.
If this doesn't end with Thea Hale stacking all 4 of them and winning the NXT championship, I do not care. I was astounded they are trying to do something with Bully Ray, Bubba Ray Dudley in 2024. I figured we would get some ECW stuff for this show in next week. It's next week. It's a week from Wednesday. I figured we would get it. Van Dam can still go. Van Dam and Javon Evans would be like a cool little fun match.
They hinted heavily at that happening. The Javon Evans backstager with Cedric Alexander, you see a photo between 2 men, and it's in the locker of Javon Evans, it's RVD. They did a pretty good hinting of that.
So like that's fine. That's fun. If you want to have the Dudleys there to do something, they bring out Austin Theory. I don't care. Like you get Sandman. Sandman's, vaping out of a Singapore cane, and you bring him out to do something. Like that's fine. There's stuff to do for the ECW nostalgia, because for some reason, even though this company died in 2001, people still have these super fond, hey, we can do something with it. Let's get the nostalgia pop off of it. And there's a place for that. I'm not saying there's not. There's definitely a place for that, especially if you're going to the former ECW arena. I do not need it as like an actual part of the main event scene. I do not need it. No knock on Ridge Holland. Like he's fine. There's a place for him on the show. I don't think the main event is the place for Ridge Holland. I just don't see it with Ridge Holland. They've tried it. It doesn't connect with me. It's not something that I'm into. I like Trick Williams. I like Ethan Page. Ethan Page out here teasing the CM Punk stuff, and here we are, dopes. They're like, oh, CM Punk's going to go. Maybe they're going to do Ethan Page, CM Punk.
Should have been that match. Should have been that match last night.
And instead, we're getting Bully Ray. What? Huh? What are we doing here? You know what this really is? You know what this is? This is going to be the out for NXT, because it's up against AEW. That's the night they're up against. Dawn Marie, by the way, that's a cool little get. Like Dawn Marie hasn't really been on television.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, like that's fine.
And it's like a low card match. Yeah, no DQ match between Lola Vice.
Right.
Like it's not going to hurt anybody.
Right. She's a special guest referee. Like there's no issue with it. So like that's fine. Again, RVD Javon Evans is fine because RVD has proven like he can still kind of go. And I assume, fingers crossed, maybe not, Javon Evans is going to win that match. And maybe he's not. What? How
funny would it be? Because he said it a million times, like he'll go wherever he's paid to go. Tony Khan calls RVD and says, hey, you want to come work Dynamite on the 6th in New Hampshire? And he's like, well, I was offered this one gig. Well, what does it pay? I'll pay you double. And RVD's like, all right, well, it's this, and he's like, you're going to go work like Shelton Benjamin or something. And that's how they do. That's how RVD gets sneaked away.
So here, back to my theory. This is going to be NXT / WWE saying either ECW beats AEW or AEW beats ECW. You beat a brand that died in 2001. How big friggin' deal? Or we took this dead brand, did a nostalgia night, and beat your show. That's how that's what they're doing. That's how they're playing this. This is not an NXT show. This is going to be a nostalgia ECW show. So they can say, you beat a brand that's been dead for nearly 30 years. Or you lost to a brand that's been dead for nearly 30 years. Either way, that's how they're going to write this off. Because if they use CM Punk and they used Cody Rhodes and they use these other people and they lost, then they got, you can't spin that. You can't spin that in a great way. Of course, if they won, they could just easily be like, ah ha ha, we've beaten you again. But there's obviously the risk factor when you do that, because it's not a guarantee. When AEW goes to Tuesday, that was a lot more of a guarantee because AEW is moving nights. Now it's NXT moving nights. It's not a guarantee they're going to win. So this is how they compensate for it. This is how they hedge with it, is they use the ECW brand.
They should absolutely bring back Jack Swagger for one night.
Sure.
Jack Swagger, former ECW World Champion. Matt Hardy, former ECW World Champion, now TNA Tag Team Champion. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's go. Thea Hale, though. Going back to Thea Hale.
She rules.
She does rule. We talked about the ambulance match, and they brought out a hearse for an ambulance because I wasn't a big fan of that. I like consistency and accuracy in my wrestling, Jeremy. It has to be real. It's still real to some, not me. Anyway, Thea should have absolutely run over both men with the hearse. She should have been driving the hearse out of the building when it finished. But instead, nowhere to be found last night. Where's Thea Hale?
That was the most disappointing thing. Like what are we? Ridge Holland?
Tatum Paxton showed up out of a box. Like structure.
That's because Wendy Chu was working the TNA taping.
I called all that shit from a mile away. My Knockouts tag division booking is going exactly as it's been for the last 3 months. Thank you.
They're trying to do Ridge Holland and Bully Ray in the main event scene in 2024. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, this is it. Thea Hale should have said to Ridge Holland, "Where to, Holland?" And then Ridge Holland in the backseat going, "No!" That should have been it. That should have been it. Masato Tanaka, former ECW World Champion.
They can still kind of go. Like, that's fine. Like,
he just challenged at Noah for a championship, or he just put out the challenge at Noah for the world. I think the world championship or the hardcore, one of the championships in Noah.
Tanaka can still go. Like, oh, okay. I'm not mad. I'm not mad at Tanaka showing up there.
He does rule. I love Masato Tanaka. Ezekiel Jackson should host the show. Hasn't Big Zeke been on socials?
Yeah, he's looking jacked, brother. Randy Orton's might be the only person who can step to Ezekiel Jackson.
Could you imagine? That's the one I want. Oh, that was an interesting show. Halloween Havoc was. I have nothing else to add other than 2300 is going to be quite the experience. I'm sure
the women's division's doing good stuff in NXT. Zarya killing people. Stephanie Vaquer getting the victory over Roxanne Perez. That was a really fun match. It looks like Vaquer's up next for Perez. Cora Jade back after a long layoff. Julia got her good with that knee. That's the only thing I care about is how the knee strike looks from Julia. So overall, the women's division, good stuff there. Missing Thea Hale, but still good overall.
Don't forget Tatum Paxley, Wendy Chu. They're going to have a coffin match.
Yeah.
That's important. I think people.
No, that's fun.
Yeah, no, and there's honestly a lot of good stuff going on in the women's division. They put a lot of emphasis on it. They're not calling it the best women's division, but they're certainly calling it the strongest.
Well, they kind of are.
Well, they backed away from calling it the best. Now they're just calling it like the deepest or the strongest. Which like they've got good claims to a deep women's division because they're showcasing a lot of it. So I'll give them that. Yeah. Otherwise, listen, they're putting on some good stuff, but the show itself last night was kind of just what it was.
It was relatively short. I appreciate
that. Yep.
And they don't even do the press conference anymore. Bless them. Even though Michaels is like actually good at those. Like, it was a show. Like if you can watch the women's tag team match, anything else is kind of skippable. But man, Bully Ray standing tall in 2024. What are we doing?
Hey, they did the same thing at Maple Leaf Pro on the night one.
I mean, look, I love that match. That match ruled. Your takeaway should not be, let's do more with Brian, or not Brian Danielson. We should do more with Brian Danielson. Let's do more with Bully Ray out of that match.
Volov sent a super chat saying it's not that they're just doing a Bubba angle. They're doing a Bubba angle after the shit he just did after he shit the bed just a week ago. I know WWE doesn't care, but I do. And like, that's fair. If you watch Maple Leaf Pro and you saw how Bubba and Raj Deji was on a quote unquote working level, then yeah, you're probably not a big fan of having Bubba Ray show up. Listen, my biggest fandom of Bubba Ray in most recent year was his feud with Josh Alexander in TNA. I thought it was actually better than a lot of people gave it credit for in certain ways. The matches weren't all great. When they did the Plunder match, that was good, but like they did some high drama. But other than that, I'm not clamoring for any bully Bubba Rennie. No. Get rid of it. We're done. Over it.
This would be my question. She has not wrestled a match since that great match against Roxanne Perez. They watched that match and they were like, you know what we should do with Thea Hale? Add more Bully Ray to our fucking show.
That's a really great question. Why does he sound like Triple H? That's a really great question. We really love Thea Hale, but she's really good doing Chase U. So she's going to be in charge of Chase U for a little while.
She should be on the show as charge of Chase U. She
know what?
Stands there and Ridge Holland beats people up. She should beat up Ridge Holland.
Tuesday night, because he lost the ambulance match, Chase U, Andre Chase should come out and sign the deed over to Thea Hale and start Hail U. Give me a Hail U.
I wish. Then they're going to bring out Bully Ray. Ugh.
And then Bully Ray is the first person to join Hail U.
That sounds terrible. Devon's going to get involved. Devon.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
I mean, he did the video with Trick. He did the Reverend Devon spot with the diss track. They're going to bring in Devon and they're going to go, Devon, get the tables. And Devon's going to go, I'm not gay, but I'm going to say I'm gay to make headlines, and people are going to dirt sheet write about it. And then they go, what's up?
And then I'm going to ask the referee to do the spot for me.
It ain't for me. It just ain't for me.
Well, how do you feel about John Bradshaw Layfield, Jeremy?
Oh, this sucked too.
Let's talk real quick about TNA Bound for Glory. Again, full review over on our Fightful main channel. Myself, Cresta Star, Steven Jensen. We had a really good time talking about the show, although we definitely did not all completely love the show. Some ups and downs. First out of the way, just got to send some love to Vikingo and Chris Bay, hoping that they're both okay. I know Vikingo gave a little bit of an update as to how his status right now. He said he's going to be okay. It's essentially what he said. Although you got AJ Francis putting up pray for Bay on his socials. Hopefully Chris Bay's okay. Waiting on an update there. Just hoping for the best. They were both injured during the TV tapings last night in Detroit. Just sending a love there before we get into our TNA talk. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, best wishes to Vikingo and Chris Bay. That never good when guys get stretchered out on a show. Maybe it was precautionary, but still never good. I know Vikingo was at least on Instagram posting, so he said he'll come back stronger. It looked like he may have been walking. It was tough to tell on the Instagram stories. Chris Bay, I don't know if he's posted anything. He's usually pretty active on Twitter too. So hopefully we get an update on Chris Bay in the coming days. Yeah, he hasn't posted anything since last night. So yeah, best wishes to both of them. Never good again when stretchers get brought out.
No, not at all. Hoping to hear some good news out of Chris Bay's camp very shortly. Sending our love to them. But let's talk about TNA. Let's talk about Bound for Glory. What's funny to me is that of all the things that happened this weekend, I think this may have been the strongest wrestling show. There was some good stuff. Listen, Vikingo and Speedball had an excellent match for the X Division Championship. Congratulations to Vikingo for winning the X Division title, according to TNA.
Yeah, well,
Well, no, Vikingo did not win the X Division Championship. There's a whole other can of worms.
graphical issue there.
Yeah, there's a whole other can of worms there. Don't you worry. You'll be 2 weeks from now. You'll be talking about the X Division champion in a different light. But Vikingo and Speedball had a good match. They did exactly what they wanted, which was 5.5 stars. Speedball retains. Good stuff. Anything you want to add on that one?
Good match. Speedball retains.
Oh, shout out to Kate. Turned $25 into $175. Because if you listen to us, the betting odds were very much in the favor of us before the show. Cresta and I were all over that one.
No.
There were some things. There were some betting odds where we were like, what? Like the Knockouts World Championship match. That's the match that people want to talk about first. This was a good match. Masha Slamovich won the TNA Knockouts Championship. Jordan Grace dropped it for the first time in how many defenses? Good Lord, almost 17 defenses, I think. Very strong match, really fun match. A lot of harking back to their Bound for Glory 2022 match. But yeah, the odds were on Jordan Grace winning, and we both scoffed at that and said Masha's winning, and lo and behold, she is the new Knockouts World Champion. Yeah, this was a really fun match. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if you want to add anything about it. Again, Jensen had a lot of good stuff to say because he's covered Masha extensively through the Weekender podcast.
It was as great as you would expect it to be. I thought Masha winning was the right call, especially if Jordan is potentially going to leave in January. You had to make somebody off of Jordan's title reign. Making Masha Slamovich was the move here, and they worked the match they needed to work. They gave Jordan a lot, or they did give Jordan a lot, but they gave Masha a lot as well, kicking out the Grace driver and things like that. So it was a really good match. I enjoyed this more than Vikingo and Speedball. It's just my personal taste of things. And this was a little bit more in doubt to me. Vikingo and Speedball, I never felt like Speedball was going to actually lose the X Division title, even though they had the graphic prepared that Vikingo was the new X Division champion. Where this one, I thought Masha was going to win, but yeah, the talk, the odds were, oh, Jordan's actually going to kind of retain here. So there was a little bit more doubt in my mind for Masha and Jordan than there was for Vikingo and Speedball.
Love to know where that came from. Where the Jordan is, there was talk of Jordan retaining. Love to know where that started. I know that was on our Bound for Glory Scoops thread. Sean had written as much. There was talk about Jordan Grace retaining, and I was kind of since they introduced the match. I was like, no, this is it. There's no one else on your roster as you go to the end of 2025 or 2024 into 25. No one else fits the bill better than Masha Slamovich. You put your money behind her. You put opportunities behind Masha. She's done well. She's deserving. No one else on that roster right now in the women's division is standing out the same way. The Ash by Elegance stuff didn't fly with anybody. They had a good match at Slammiversary. They had a good plunder match, a few weeks later. But other than that, the only other person was Giselle Shaw. And once she left, it was like, well, we just cleared the path for Masha Slamovich. And I'm glad that they did it. So, new Knockouts champion. We'll see where it goes, how long that lasts. And then they had the world title match. It wasn't the last match on the show, which probably should have told people how
that was the tip off right there.
Yeah. Joe Hendry is a big old loser once again. Does not capture the TNA World Championship. Going into this match, I was of the belief that he was not going to win. I flip-flopped a little bit, then I ultimately came that Joe Hendry was not going to win, and he didn't. And that was because of everything that I had mentioned with JBL. You're not going to introduce JBL twice and not continue that story. TNA, we've talked about this, Jeremy. TNA does not pivot for better or worse from their stories. And right now, their main event story has been and continues to be Nick Nemeth, the JBL story, and now Frankie Kazarian. And on the periphery, you've got Mike Santana. We'll talk about him in a minute. But JBL essentially costs Joe Hendry his world title shot. People are turned off from this, and I understand it completely. He's a very popular figure in wrestling right now, and outside, he's definitely catching a lot of eyes. Was this is this going to seriously hurt TNA? Is my big question. Is this going to turn fans off in an extreme way? What do you think?
I don't think it helps. I don't know what hurts TNA right now. I don't know if you heard this, Joel, but they're hard to kill. So
No, they're not anymore. Now they're back to Genesis in January.
well, I guess so. But like, I don't know if there are things that like fully just hurt TNA because they're not going anywhere or anything like that. But there are things that can help the company. And I think this helped. The moment that this was the co-main event and not the main event, I tweeted it. I messaged you. It's like, this ain't good for Joe Hendry. It's just not.
I told you the honey dickin' was on, baby.
Oh yeah, you were way more adamant that leading up to it of it feels like Nemeth is going to retain. I thought they would be stupid to not have Joe Hendry win, and well, but when this was the co-main event, I was like, yep, Joe Hendry's losing this thing. I was 100% confident in it because even if the Hardys were going to win the tag team titles, which they did. If Joe Hendry was going to win the world title, that's what you close the show with. I don't care if the Hardys are going to win the tag titles. You close the show with Joe Hendry winning the world title. So when they did not close the show with Joe Hendry, it's like, nope, he ain't winning because that's what you do if he was going to win. JBL comes out. Who could possibly care in 2024 about this JBL stuff? And then Nick Nemeth. Nemeth is fine. I got nothing against him. He's a good wrestler. He's a good overall like worker, character, presentation. There's nothing wrong with Nick Nemeth. I'm fine with Nemeth being that bridge as the world champion to get to Joe Hendry. But they ain't getting to Joe Hendry. People try to say, this is the dumbest argument in the world, by the way. Oh, why are you going to put the title on him if he's leaving in January? That's why you put the title on him. That's why. Because, yeah, he's going to leave in January, potentially. And I've talked about this so many times. I feel like it's a broken record. Jensen and I have talked about this. It feels like a disservice to your wrestlers when you don't put when you aren't willing to put the title on because they're just gonna leave. Okay, so put it on them until they do leave. Show some good faith of like, you know what, you've done a lot of work here. You've gotten yourself over here. We're gonna reward you with this title because it is your time to take this title. You're leaving. That's okay. We understand. We get it. But thank you for all you've done. Thank you for lifting the company right now. And if you want to come back, we're showing you right now, we believe in you. We're going to put the title on you. We believe in you. If I'm Joe Hendry, I'm like, as well, they didn't even want to put this title on me. Of course I'm leaving now. And look, I think we've got to, when you talk about, why are you going to put the title on him? He's going to leave in January. Let's not be naive and be like, Joe Hendry's going to take the title and go to WWE with it. Joe Hendry's going to do good business. He's not going to screw over the company because that doesn't benefit him either. You put the title on him. You have him hold it until January. He loses it at Genesis. You make the guy we want to make after that at Genesis. There's no risk of Joe Hendry just taking the title with him. He's going to do right by the company, especially if you show faith in him, because then he's going to be more inclined to do right by the company and drop the title. Okay, you want me to drop the title to Santana? He's up next. Cool. No problem. Thank you for giving me this run. We did good business. And hopefully, if things don't work out, hopefully things do work out. But, if things don't work out elsewhere, there's a spot for me here. It's just it's not doing the Cody either, by the way. When people are trying to make these comparisons, it's so dumb to honestly make. Because one, Joe Hendry could leave in January. So you don't even know if you're going to come back around to, we can do it next year for Joe Hendry and make him next year. So you don't know that he's going to be around next year if his contract is up when it is up. Two, they weren't going to make Cody. We've got to remember this. Cody was not factored in until the crowd was, hey, we're going to push Cody in there. The plan was The Rock and Roman. And then The Rock woke up at 4 a.m. and was like, fucking Mana, the final boss. And then they changed their whole plan. But the plan was not, hey, Cody's going to lose at 39 and then get his get back at 40. Maybe that was the plan at 39. Maybe the night after 39, that was the plan, but it changed. And things change a lot in wrestling. I say this all the time. When the moment is there, when you can strike, you have to strike because you don't know if you're going to get it again. Sometimes you get fortunate and it's there and you can recapture it. That certainly happened with Cody. Good on them. But that was not a guarantee. And there are so many other examples of them missing the moment. And there's a lot of those examples in TNA of them missing the moment. And that is what everybody wants to point to correctly, justifiably, of the times when you had Monty Brown, when you had Samoa Joe, when you had AJ Styles, and you did not make these guys at the time you should have made them, and you missed making them. You were a month late, 2 months late, a year late. It never happened, whatever it was. You missed that opportunity, and people just stopped believing in the company. Feels the same thing with Joe Hendry right now.
So it's funny you mentioned the disservice to TNA wrestlers not to do stuff like this and reward them. To me, the disservice is only letting them go on shows and talk about TNA and only TNA for 18 minutes or less. No questions asked. I had to get that out there. Wow. I had to put that out there because I'm a salty bitch. Okay. There is a world in which they could have had Joe Hendry win the championship. And actually, let me back it up for a second. For those who don't watch TNA, because I get it, the JBL stuff. I've mentioned this here. I've mentioned it on other shows. JBL's presentation everywhere else he's appeared has been aligning with heels. He's been a bad guy. That's fine. The only place he hasn't done that yet was TNA. He was helping Nick Nemeth, who was their white meat babyface world champion. On Saturday night at Bound for Glory, he took out Frankie Kazarian first, and then he took out Joe Hendry. He said something to Joe and then took him out. And then he also took out Ryan Nemeth, and then he basically helped Nick win. They're going to turn Nick Nemeth heel. That's really what's coming out of this. And I've been saying this for a while. Like they're going to turn Nick Nemeth, and that's fine. But why, in that case, if you know you're going to turn Nick Nemeth and you know that Santana is the next guy up, and I've been saying this for months, Mike Santana deserves that world title run too. We've interviewed him enough times to know that he gives a shit and he is so good at doing this, and he has come a long way. I sing his praises all the time, not just because of the conversations we've had, but because of the work he puts in and out of the ring. We know it's happening. So with all of that said, there is a world where on Saturday you could have had Joe Hendry still get the best of Nick Nemeth and win, and that be part of the catalyst that turns Nick Nemeth heel. Where the next night at the tapings, Nick Nemeth goes berserk and beats up Joe Hendry with, because JBL told him to. JBL wasn't at the taping, spoiler alert, but he shows up at the main event. I mean, the PLEs and the specials. Okay, fine. Regardless, you could have started the Nick Nemeth heel turn with Joe Hendry as champion, and you could have even done a rest of 2024 arc where Joe Hendry has the title, do the rematch at Genesis 1-on-1, Nick Nemeth regains his title, and then at the next pay-per-view or somewhere down the line, Santana beats Nick Nemeth. Instead, they want to do a Nick Nemeth has a big, a big heel run where he starts as a babyface, turns into a heel, and then he loses the title to the next big white meat babyface that takes his spot, and that is going to be Mike Santana. I don't love it. I see where they're doing it. I get it, but it's not great. For some person saying JBL attacked Ryan Nemeth too, I think that's kind of how they're trying to play it off, as it was planned that he was going to attack Ryan to trick Nick Nemeth, or not to trick the audience that Ryan was in on it too, and he just took one for the team. I think that's just part of the story. But yeah, Joe could have won, and they could have easily had done something for the rest of the year. WrestleCade could have been a Nick Nemeth and JBL versus Joe Hendry and I don't know who, Mike Santana, in a tag match. You could have done something like that. But instead, Nick Nemeth is still champion. Frankie Kazarian still has call your shot. And Joe Hendry was made to look like a bitch. And he lost again. And I talked about the concert that they were doing Jeff Hardy and Joe Hendry were going to do a tandem concert for the fans in Detroit last night. They did it, but it was a dark segment. And I said, if this is going to make air, you do not want a big world title loser coming out with his guitar and singing happy dappy songs with the new TNA tag team champion. That would look stupid. Well, luckily it's a dark segment, so you don't have to worry about it. But it exists, and it's it's upsetting for a lot of people, and I get it. I understood the assignment, but also it's just, you could have done better. You could have given the fan service for this.
How did they end Moose's title reign, Joel?
He lost at Slammiversary randomly to Nick Nemeth, and he didn't get pinned.
Well, it did get pinned.
He got pinned, but he didn't lose the title. He wasn't the last person pinned. Therefore, they did the shock. Oh my God, we're gonna have a new champion tonight. Yeah,
right. They built up this big Moose title reign. They talked about how he had all these successful title defenses, how he hadn't been pinned in so long. And then he lost in a 6-person elimination match.
Sorry, I'm going to cut into you for a sec. Fightful Select, we just had a free post go up on Chris Bay. I'm going to read it verbatim because it is a free post. Chris Bay sustained a serious injury in Detroit at the TNA tapings. The match and show were ended, but only the post-show meet and greet only the post-show meet and greets following the injury. We don't have details on how the injury occurred, but it looked like a very serious one. Bay was taken to hospital with a neck injury, underwent surgery. We're told that he's recovering, but details beyond that are being kept private. He's widely adored in TNA wrestling, big part of the company, repairing its relationship with New Japan. New Japan requested him for dates this year. And of course, we send our love to Chris Bay and wish him well in recovery. So there you go. An update on Chris Bay. That is on the free tier of Fightful Select. Sorry, I had to put that out there because it's pretty big news to have underwent surgery after this incident.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great that he immediately underwent surgery and he was stretchered out and neck injury. None of that sounds good. So yeah, best wishes to Chris Bay because that sounds like a tough one.
Yeah, apologies for completely derailing it. This was something that I feel like people we had talked about it. We said when there would be an update, we'd have one, and we got one. So we can go back to what we were talking about. Moose lost the title in that 6-way match at Slammiversary, and Joe Hendry didn't win either.
Yeah, they screwed over Joe Hendry because Josh Alexander turned heel and everything, and it doesn't seem like it's a very fan-friendly company. And I don't want to fully, it sounds kind of harsh saying it out loud, but you invest in a guy like Joe Hendry and you're not rewarded for that. You invest in, Moose losing his title. Who's going to dethrone Moose? And it just happens in like a six-man scramble match, elimination match. And then Joe Hendry, like that, remember that was the talk after Slammiversary. It was like, Joe Hendry, that's him getting screwed out of the title because Josh Alexander turned and he's going to come back stronger and he's going to win the title. And then what happened? It didn't happen because he lost the Bound for Glory to Nick Nemeth in the co-main event because you had to do JBL out there. Like there is something to be said about the babyface promotion. People talk about with WWE. WWE feels like the babyface promotion right now because they're rewarding fans. They're paying off stuff and they're telling you if you stick with us, you're going to get a satisfying conclusion to things. There is something to be said about that. TNA is telling you if you stick with us, here's JBL. That's not. The fans don't want that. They just don't. Joe Hendry, whether you think highly of his wrestling or not, whether you think highly of him as a top tier draw, as a long-term viable option or not, truthfully, does not matter. It does not matter because who does think highly of him as an investment and a top tier draw and a guy they're going to get behind is the majority of their audience. He's getting over. This is the argument I had with Jensen all the time with LA Knight. And Jensen's just like, I don't get LA Knight. I don't get it. Now Jensen was afraid that LA Knight was going to defeat Roman Reigns and it wasn't going to be Cody Rhodes. That's why he didn't like LA Knight. So I understand that portion of it. But the audience reaction told you everything you needed to know about LA Knight. It told you everything you needed to know about Sami Zayn at the time where it looked like he could have won the title. WWE stuck with their guns. They paid off the Cody story in the end. TNA doesn't have that kind of goodwill and equity to get away with this kind of thing. And that's a big difference as well. They just don't. You got to make guys when they are there, when they're right in front of you. And they're just not. They're instead, like, I like Mike Santana. We've had him on the show a number of times. He's fantastic. You could still get to Mike Santana without undercutting what you had with Joe Hendry.
Yep. There's this funny thing, you started with, do TNA like hate their fans, right? They're not doing fan service stuff. At the same time, they continue to post, the most fans in the arena in the United States ever, or in 13 years. Like they're building on, it's like, it's the WWE. We've made more money than we've ever made before, even though we're gouging the fans. But WWE at least is giving them what they want in certain regards when it comes to some stories and some fan service experience and things like that. Does that run out with TNA? It's possible. This is going to be a big test. However, it's not going to be on Joe Hendry, because for the next month, as I've mentioned everywhere and anywhere, they're going to be in North Carolina. They're going to be at the home state of their new tag team champions. Another nostalgia act, but honestly, they're very popular and they continue to be, and that's the Hardy Brothers. So Matt and Jeff did capture the tag titles in a Full Metal Mayhem match. And yeah, they're going to go and do tapings in about a week or two in Fayetteville, and then they're going to go to WrestleCade in Winston-Salem, and there's going to be a TNA Plus show in that venue at WrestleCade, and that's going to be Hardy Central. And that could either be, that's going to be a big telling of how people feel about the Hardys in their home state, and also,
they're going to be
fine. I know they're going to do great.
Yeah, WrestleCade draws. The TNA show isn't necessary for WrestleCade to draw. WrestleCade draws without that.
Right. No, I know you've been there and I know you've experienced that. I think my point was more just that they're going, again, TNA is going to promote how much money they've made, how many people are coming, and then they're going to do Final Resolution in Atlanta at Center Stage. And I wonder what that's going to look like, because again, it's the end of the year. It's not a big show, but it's a show that they're going to do. I assume that's going to be the big Jordan Grace send off, or Genesis will be. Although honestly, I feel like you should just not call the show Genesis and then have it the send off for one of your most popular knockouts of the last 5 years. Yeah, I'm wondering how the business for TNA looks over the next little while. Again, if you're just joining us or commenting, the Chris Bay news just dropped. There's a free post over on Fightful Select. We did read it out loud, but you can go find it there as well. Again, he underwent neck surgery. He is recovering. Sending our best to Chris. But where is TNA in 2025 at this point?
Existing. They're going to continue to exist. They're going to continue to be fine. I do think the NXT partnership has helped them in ways that in ways when it comes to like ticket sales and things like that. I think the NXT partnership helped boost a show like Bound for Glory, because it helped boost the profile of a guy like Joe Hendry. And when you have Joe Hendry lose, I am curious as to what it looks like. But like you said, the next show's in North Carolina. The Hardys are the champions. They're going to be fine. TNA's piggybacking off of WrestleCade that weekend. WrestleCade doesn't need TNA to draw the numbers that they're going to draw. So TNA is going to benefit from that. What it looks like after that, don't know. I don't know how much damage this the Joe Hendry stuff is going to do. It definitely is not a great sign, though. I think, and look, even though the live shows are good and the live shows are drawing fairly well, at least this one did. It's Bound for Glory. It's their biggest show. I don't know how much you want to take away from that. The TV ratings are still what they are. They don't show up there. The buy rates overall are what they are. They're doing well, but they're still, relatively nondescript, not really moving the needle too much there. Go ahead.
Ratings wise, my only pushback is that they've done a lot of pushing people to TNA Plus.
Yeah.
And again, this is going to be, again, one of the benefits of moving Raw to Netflix is that you won't necessarily have to hear about ratings discourse. But yeah, when I see something like 76,000 people are watching TNA one week, it's easy to get really down on that. On the other hand, we don't have TNA Plus subscriber membership numbers. At one point, listen, when it was Impact Plus and they were just getting off the ground, it was not good. Like there was a time when people were like 12,000 subscribers, similar to what Honor Club's like now. And that's not a shot at Honor Club. It's just numbers were the similar. It wasn't good at one point. TNA Plus right now is not perfect. I'm subscribed to it because YouTube got shut down for their weekly show, which really grinds my gears, but not important. I'm on TNA Plus, and it's where they've pushed a lot of their people to watch the show because not everyone has access to begin with, or Fight TV or Fight Net, whatever it is in Canada. So yeah, I'm curious about that. They're going to keep going, like you said. Do you want to finish your point, or do you want me to take over here?
No, it's my point is this weekend did not feel like a win for TNA. And maybe it was because they drew a good crowd and it sounded like they had a good gate and everything. But typically coming out of TNA shows, what's the narrative on those shows, Joel? Oh, the show was so great. The pay-per-view was outstanding. You got to see this, you got to see that. And then it loses momentum when the TV comes around. And then we repeat the cycle every quarter when it comes to that. That was not the narrative coming out of this show. The narrative coming out of this show was that main event match was kind of disjointed. And then, okay, you're going with the Hardys in 2024, which I think the Hardys get more flack than they probably deserve. Because I know I can at least pinpoint, hey, the Hardys still draw a good crowd. The Hardys, people still come to see the Hardys. But there were more than usual of like, I don't know about the Hardys in 2024. And I completely get that as well. But the bigger thing was, Nick Nemeth, JBL, not Joe Hendry is what you're going with. The narrative wasn't good coming out of this show compared to what it usually is, which is go watch this Impact show, go watch this TNA show. They're doing great things. This was LOL TNA.
They love Nick Nemeth. They paid him a lot of money.
Sure.
They want to get the most out of him. And that's they gave him, this was the first thing they told us, right? It was they gave him the Trinity contract. When Trinity left, that freed up the money for them to bring in Nick Nemeth. And that's what they did. They basically just, whatever money they had allotted for Trinity's pay, they just moved it over. They put it over to Nick, and that's what they did. And this is no shot at either person. They're both tremendous in their own right. Trinity was featured heavily on the show, and Nick Nemeth is featured heavily on the show. He wants to be that dude. So it is what it is. Nick Nemeth is going to be there. He's going to be there, and Joe Hendry is also still there, but I don't know if they want to make him a champion. I don't know if they care enough to make him the champion, whereas they are all in on the Nemeth train. They're all in on Santana. I can tell you that. And it feels like they're just going to give Santana that. It not just feels like they're going to do it. They're going to give it to him. And Santana's going to get a ridiculous reaction when he wins that world championship. Because just like when they did the Josh Alexander, Steve Macklin story that unfortunately got derailed when it was for the world title before Rebellion in 23, that got derailed because of injury. But they were telling a great little sneaky story where both men were on the ascent in their own way. Macklin was in the background racking up wins and telling his story while Josh Alexander was having a great title reign. They had something going, and then they had to pivot, and it was what it was. But they're doing that with Santana too. He's going off. He's beating the system. He's going and having these banger matches. He's telling the stories. He's a white meat babyface who's a little anti-hero. Nick Nemeth is about to turn and become the person that everybody's going to hate in TNA. Him and Frankie will probably do a tag match or two, and they'll do the tease of the call your shot stuff, and that'll be that. They need to fix some stuff.
I look forward to when Santana wins the title and then Kazarian immediately cashes in the dumb little thing, and then
you see, and I thought about that. They could do it at Genesis, and I'm a little perturbed that if they do it, I will either have already been done talking about TNA on the post shows, or I will have that will be the night that breaks me. I haven't decided yet. Have not decided, but anyway. Should we talk a little bit about Collision? I'm going to be upfront. I haven't seen all of it. I've saw bits and pieces.
wow.
Been a little busy this weekend. Listen, when you're sleep deprived, you have to cover TNA, and you have a 2.5-year-old who wants to run. Those are his words, not mine. You don't always have the time. And plus, they ran a show on Sunday, so I had to watch Halloween Havoc. I've done that.
And he can't run anymore.
I've done it accidentally once or twice. It doesn't go over well. He just kind of lies on the ground and goes, and you're just like, oh, you're fine. Don't worry. Get up, but brush it off.
I thought Collision was a good show. It was. And people are talking about Outrunners and MXN Collection. That was a lot of fun.
Meme ass wrestlers getting over. How dare you?
They did the reverse of what they did last week with Outrunners, or with FTR beating LFI, and then the beatdown, and the Outrunners make the save. The weird thing to me was, here's Undisputed Kingdom, feeding treats to Beast Mortos, and it's like, yeah, come on, Beast, let's go trick-or-treating, and then Beast Mortos is just out there in the main event helping LFI and with them. Like, didn't he go off with Undisputed Kingdom? What happened there? What do we do there?
Money happened.
I thought the Yuta Nigel McGuinness segment was fantastic. I really liked that segment. And
are we getting a match, by the way? Are we going to get Yuta and Nigel?
Like, maybe. Honestly, like, it wouldn't shock me if we did. I do think that one of my concerns is Collision losing the Moxley factor. They had it last week where Moxley, because they had the trios titles on the line, and then they did the beatdown, then it bled into Battle of the Belts, which I really liked. Now they had the Yuta segment here, but the rest of the show, there was no John Moxley. There was no threat of John Moxley. There was no concern of, hey, our company's being taken over. Again, I'm going to continue to repeat this. This should be a company-wide storyline. This should be a story that affects the entire company, not just lives in a segment or two. And when you basically do all of Collision, where the only things you really have are, hey, Orange Cassidy is going to speak on Dynamite, and here's a really good segment between Yuta and Nigel, but otherwise everybody else is just kind of still doing their own thing, it loses some effectiveness overall. And then people don't care as much about it because it's like, well, I'm going to tune in Collision and John Moxley doesn't care to show up here. I don't care to show up here. Like, you got to make it a bigger deal on these things. So I do wish that, or I am concerned, and I do wish they did more with the Moxley stuff on Collision, because now we're a week into things and we're already getting like nothing from that as far as the actual show. They did some, again, pre-tape stuff that was good, but the actual show didn't have that. What's the word I'm looking for? That
agency.
What?
Agency.
I don't know about urgency. Urgency
is a good one, sure.
Yeah, it didn't have that urgency of John Moxley's here.
Well, because they didn't promote it. They didn't have a big AEW Collision Mox is here banner.
Which would have been better if he just showed up.
That's true. No, but I get what you're saying. This felt like a a lot of Collision was very wrestling heavy, which after Dynamite was very story heavy. This was, a welcome change for those who just wanted to have an easy watch and just, go and watch the matches. And they got a few things over in the process. Ricochet continues to do his, I am Ricochet and I wrestle really well on Saturday nights routine, which is good. Took on Leo Rush, had a good match. Loved watching that. But it was a bunch of wrestling matches. And meanwhile, the main event is still FTR getting involved with LFI. And where's Jake Roberts? Why can't they fly him in from the farm?
He was there.
Oh, was he there? I missed that.
He was in a backstage. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Yeah,
he needs to come out to the ring. I need to see him. They have 74 titles and none of them were on the show. I'm sorry.
I was more like, not put off, but I was just like, why is Beast Mortos still doing this stuff with Undisputed Kingdom? See, this is again like the disconnect stuff with me is doing the stuff with Undisputed Kingdom, who are Henry saying Jake Roberts was there, he punched Dax. Yeah, he was definitely there. So like TNA or that TNA, like they're doing this stuff with Undisputed Kingdom, and Roddy's worried about MJF and I need to win 3 matches. And then Roddy's just backstage like, Beast Mortos, why are you hanging out with these guys? Come on, here's your bag of treats. Let's go trick-or-treating. And then Beast Mortos just shows up with LFI in the main event. Like, shouldn't Roddy, shouldn't he even want to wrestle? Shouldn't he want to win 3 matches so he can face MJF at Full Gear? Wasn't that the big story a big story from Dynamite of, let me go win 3 matches so I can get this match against MJF? And there was nothing about that on Collision. You would not know. If you just watch Collision, you would not know Roderick Strong needs to win 3 matches to face MJF at Full Gear. He's way more concerned about why Beast Mortos is concerned about or why Beast Mortos is hanging out with LFI. He didn't care at all about MJF. It was, and there's just that disconnect stuff that happens from Dynamite to Collision that they got to clean up.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too. Maybe the reason why it was so disjointed is because Will wasn't there this week. But Washington took a week off in Collision.
Will's typically not at Collision. Spoiler for everybody.
I can't believe it. He should be at every show. Ring of Honor, Dynamite. No, I don't care. I love Will. Happy belated birthday to Will Washington. Henry saying that what if Beast Mortos is the third opponent for Roddy? And I'm still on I think Roddy and Cole will be faced off against each other for the third match. But I mean, you could do Beast Mortos and Roddy in like the second match. Roddy gets the win with End of Heartache, and that's a big win for him because Mortos doesn't lose as often. Could do something like that. But I agree. If you are going to set up a big stakes match by having your opponent have to win 3 matches to get to MJF in this case, then you should probably be talking about it a little more just to give it a little more gravitas on the second show where the Undisputed Kingdom in this case are going to be showing up. I'd like to put that emphasis there. But otherwise, like I said, it felt like a very wrestling heavy show that was easy to watch. And some stories move forward, like the Harley Cameron and Thunder Rosa stuff happened. And it's fun, it's cute, and Harley Cameron is really good at this. She's entertaining as hell. And Thunder Rosa is coming back from her injuries, from her concussion. So hopefully that's gonna, start a new renewed push for Thunder Rosa. Or maybe Harley Cameron's finally gonna capture that big women's championship. Let's go. Her and Thea Hale should have a match.
That would rule. Harley Cameron's great.
That's the historic crossover match right there.
Yeah, Harley Cameron's fantastic. So I don't expect her to win this as well. The other thing that was a little off-putting was like Kyle Fletcher is like, I'll see you on Wednesday, Will Ospreay. And then you're just booking like Kyle Fletcher against Commander for next Saturday's show. Like what? Huh?
Well, Commander should probably join United Empire now, and that'll motivate the match, and that'll motivate the show.
I guess, but I like when they announced that match after teasing basically Ospreay and Fletcher on Wednesday, and then giving me like no knock on Fletcher or Commander. it's not a match that you need to basically step on your Wednesday segment to announce. Because Fletcher is like, I'm going to prove I'm not Will Ospreay. I'm going to prove I'm better than Will Ospreay. I'll see him on Wednesday's show, but then I'll also wrestle Commander on Saturday. Like, I don't think you need to step on your Wednesday segment to announce Fletcher and Commander. Like, that's just me.
Fair. I was more waiting for them to introduce Kyle Fletcher or reintroduce Kyle Fletcher on Wednesday with his new haircut, or even on Saturday, and not in a weather segment on a news program. I think when you shave your head, even when you want to do it, that's such a big change. This is nitpicky. Like, I'm not complaining about the Kyle Fletcher redo or
I mean, wants to do media. I respect that.
And that's the whole thing. It's like he wants to do media and he's entertaining when he does it. It's like I would have asked, like, hey, can you wait until after the big reveal of your new look on Wednesday on Dynamite or on Saturday on Collision? Like, that's the only thing I would have been like, oh, let's just hang on. There'll be more media. I promise. You can read the weather any other time. I promise. But yeah, I should have wore a hat. That would have been hilarious. But other than that, like, listen, I think Kyle Fletcher is doing some fantastic work. I think there's a growing single star that's emerging from Kyle Fletcher. I say it once again, man, I hope Dunkzilla comes back strong, because when Mark Davis comes back, when he's ready, I hope it's going to be sooner than later. You got to figure out what you're going to do with the tag team that they have and how they're going to tell that story.
It's been out for a year.
Yeah. I miss Mark Davis, man. I saw one of my early introductions to Aussie Open was in live. It was 2019 SummerSlam weekend. They came in and worked a bunch of matches. Grand Slam Australia, Kate's saying that if he's ready and he's good, that's a great place to have them back. But man, definitely wondering what happens if and when Mark Davis comes back and inserts himself in the story. But Kyle Fletcher is doing good stuff. It's fun.
Yeah.
Monday Night Raw preview, and then we can get out of here.
Kyle Fletcher and Commander.
That's tonight, eh? That's how Monday Night Raw?
Maybe.
Hell of a show. Send him to Saudi. You've got a few matches on the docket. Zelina Vega is going to take on Ivy Nile. Ivy Nile is going to beat Zelina Vega.
Sure.
En route to facing perennial babyface champion Liv Morgan. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with this, but it's a match that's happening. Sheamus is going to take on Ludwig Kaiser. That's going to be a fun match. They're going to beat the shit out of each other. And then Sheamus is going to go after a title.
Potentially. I said like Sheamus and Braun Breaker would be a good feud. So I could see Sheamus winning this and moving on to a Braun Breaker feud.
Do you let Sheamus maybe go after Gunther for a match heading into Survivor Series? Because not at Survivor Series, but on a big episode of Raw for a main event?
Yeah. That would... I mean, look, Kaiser is what he is. He's the fodder for Gunther to set up feuds for Gunther. They, at least for right now, at some point, maybe Kaiser will break away and be his own guy. But right now, you beat Kaiser and it sets up stuff for guys against Gunther. And I think there's a very real possibility that Kaiser loses this match to set up a match between Sheamus and Gunther.
Dominic Mysterio takes on a former world champion. Conversation abound. Who could it be?
The Rock.
The Rock. I've heard Rock. I've heard Goldberg. I've heard Sting.
Really?
Breaking his AEW contract. Going to rappel down from the rafters from the Hershey Center, the Giant Center in Hershey, Pennsylvania. They're gonna drive that ambulance back from last night's show, and the ambulance he's gonna come out. Bully Ray, former world champion.
What about gender? What if it's gender?
I was going to say they're going to bring back Raj Deji.
I mean, look, if they were that impressed with the Bully Ray Raj Desi match at Maple Leaf Pro, there's another person in that match. So
that's right.
What if it's gender?
Former world champion. Are we just going to go with Damian Priest?
It feels like it's going to be Damian Priest. I hope Priest is like, hey, the Yankees game is on. So hold on, please. Wait till
Hold on.
Wait till it's over. We
He
gotta.
walks out with his phone. He's just like,
It's got to be like it's got to be the first match because I assume it's gonna be a short match anyway. It's got to be the first match because first pitch will probably be like a little after 8, so you'll have a little bit of time. Like Dominic's already in the ring, and then the music hits. He comes out, he squashes, and that's it. And then he gets to the back, and he's like, "All right, didn't even miss first pitch out here. We're good, all good. We can watch the rest of the game."
alternatively, who else could it be? Someone had mentioned the idea of it being Drew McIntyre making his return. You'd be kind of baby facing Drew McIntyre though.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't like Drew. I've resigned it to being Damian Priest. Damian Priest makes the most sense because Priest was like, "Yeah, go to Saudi, get your victory. I'll be back here waiting, and I'll earn my way over here." So I do feel like it's Priest. If it's anybody else, I'd be surprised. Oh, I do like this idea that he comes out through the curtain and he's got the phone in his hand. He's watching the game, or he's like, "Can you put the game on the screen?
Put it on the big screen."
Yeah. We got 1 million TVs around the arena. Can we get the game on the Jumbotron here so we can...
Tessator was like, "Do we have written consent from Major League Baseball?"
Oh, no. Baseball would sue them so quickly. The game's on and like you're throwing the pitch and all of a sudden you get the blackout screen. This game has been copyright struck by Major League Baseball, and that's what's on the screen the whole time.
You remember like back in the day, back in the day, like 1996, when they would bring out they did the oh man, was it the not the brawl, the oh my god, the boiler room brawl.
Oh yeah.
So they did, and they brought out for the front row people, they'd bring out the TVs, like the substitute teacher TVs, that he just comes out wheeling one of those TVs. He's like, "Put on the game." They can't see it on the cameras because the refresh rate is so low on those old CRTs. They'll just see lines.
The match outcome depends on like what's happening in the Yankees game. Like if Aaron Judge strikes out again, Priest is just like, "Again?"
He just lies down.
Again? Yeah, he's so distraught.
Just
Dominic pins him. If Giancarlo Stanton hits a home run, all right, let's end this, dude. Let's go. Here we go. Knock him out. Game over. We've won.
Big move.
Let's get to the finish. Yeah.
He frees from being pinned by Raw. And he's just like, 1, 2. Got his phone in his hand.
I like that this is the outcome of this match just hangs on the Yankees game.
Triple H's masterful work on display. World title, tag team title, world tag team title contender, #1 contendership finals. That's a long. Let's see if Lillian Garcia can say that tonight. New Day War Raiders and LWO. That's Mysterio and Dragon Lee. I think that New Day are going to walk out of this one as the winners. It's going to be a little wonky, but they're going to get the win.
Yeah, I can see that. I know you called that kind of even last week that you thought New Day was going to win this tournament, and yeah, I can see that. I'm trying to think like who they pin, how it occurs. And it could just be something as simple as kind of a callback to literally just a couple weeks ago where Dragon Lee gets his mask ripped off and Xavier Woods just kind of goofs his way. I say that in like the nicest way possible because Woods knows what he's doing, but he's also accidentally gets his way into, I didn't mean to. I was just kind of trying to counter and had to win the match type of thing. But yeah, New Day winning makes the most sense for the story here.
We'll see how it all plays down tonight. 2-hour Raw. We all love that. Go to bed at a reasonable hour. Jeremy Lambert, anything you want to plug today?
I don't think so.
I will plug one thing. Shout out to Bulk Bronson. Had himself a nice little wedding. Married his sweetheart. Married the love of his life. Married Gabby Forza this weekend. Congratulations to that. Mazel tov.
Bryan Danielson is alive and he has 6 chickens.
That's right. One of them is named Pearl because clearly they watch this show and love me.
That's unfortunate.
His daughter, first thing, wakes up in the morning. "I want to watch In the Weeds." And is like, yes, honey, we're going to watch In the Weeds.
That sounds terrible.
You got it, Birdie. Anything for Birdie. Let's go. We're gonna go run up in the desert and listen to In the Weeds. That sounds like fun, Daddy. Anything else? It sounds great. Come back and do it again on Wednesday with us, 10 a.m. Eastern, For Jeremy Lambert, I am at Joel Pearl, JOELPEARL. Ladies, gentlemen, friends beyond the binary. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Why is there an outro here?